Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, I never thought I'd do it this season, but it's time to return to the world of Dr. Seuss again. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why talk about Dr. Seuss during the Halloween season? There's nothing scary about him. Well, if you are, then that means you probably haven't read a lot of his books. Trust me, I've read almost every single one as a kid. Even if some of the classics are no longer being published anymore due to controversial reasons, which make me feel very disappointed. Anyway, aside from Dr. Seuss's illustrations, which are sometimes a bit eccentric, did you know that one of Dr. Seuss's famous characters got a Halloween special? Well, that's the subject of my blog tonight. So, released to television on October 28th, 1977, the special is Halloween is Grinch Night. Now, on for the plot of the special. One autumn evening, when the sour sweet winds start to blow through Whoville again, the Whos retreat into their homes because they know the Grinch will soon be a prowlin'. Young Yukaria Who has to make a trip to the euphemism when the wind blows him away to a confrontation with the gruesome Grinch. Yukaria decides that the Grinch must be stopped, so he faces his fears and confronts the Grinch and his spooks. So, what are my thoughts on the special? Well, ever since my childhood, I thought this was a very entertaining Halloween special. And to further explain why, let's move on to Mustang notes. Now, there's not too much trivia to talk about, except for the fact that this special serves as a prequel to the 1966 Christmas special by Chuck Jones. It premiered on ABC on October 28, 1977. It was animated by DePatie Freeling, who you may know for doing animation for several of the Pink Panther intros, Looney Tunes, and Merry Melodies from 1964 to 1967, several other Dr. Seuss animated specials from 1971 to 1982, and of course, believe it or not, they also did the lightsaber effects in the original Star Wars trilogy. Plus, the songs and score were written by Sesame Street composer Joe Raposo. And also, the special won the 1978 Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Children's Program, which is really impressive in my opinion. Now, before I proceed, the main reason why I've decided to blog this Dr. Seuss Halloween special this year is very, very simple. For those who don't really follow me, I performed as the Grinch in Seussical back in fall 2012 and summer 2016. But during the late summer of this year, my friend Igor got his chance to perform as the Grinch. So, in other words, I'm mainly blogging this special for him. Anyway, in my opinion, Friz Freeling and David DePatie's style of hand-drawn animation is very zany and classical. And for this special, their animation does great at giving a beloved Dr. Seuss charm, and I think the color and environment around Whoville and Mt Crumpit does give a pretty good autumn and Halloween feel, especially when the sour sweet winds are blowing, which in this special causes a chain of events by disturbing the Gree Grumps and making them growl, which causes Punkus Pond to wunkle grunkle, which then wakes up the Hackencracks, causing them to yowl and howl, which of course causes the Grinch to prowl. Speaking of which, the sour sweet wind kind of reminds me of the Santa Ana winds, which are strong, extremely dry, downslope winds that originate inland and affect coastal Southern California, which is where I live, and northern Baja California. Also, there are several parts in this special that reference other Dr. Seuss books, like Oh, the Things You Can Think, Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are, and Dr. Seuss's final book, Oh, the places you'll go. Also, I think the part at the beginning where all the Whos go under lockdown to avoid the Grinch's terror kind of reminds me of how Halloween was last year in 2020, when there was barely any trick-or-treaters in my neighborhood. But aside from that moment, in my opinion, the most memorable part of this special is when the Grinch opens his paraphernalia wagon and Yukaria is confronted by psychedelic and surreal imagery and numerous monsters, including a Jabu. In my opinion, this moment is really, really eccentric, disturbing, and at the same time, really cool. Plus, I like the verses and animation, and I think it does great at showing what people are really afraid of, like medicals, being followed, etc. Plus, I like that Thurl Ravenscroft makes a singing cameo during this sequence. By the way, when I was a kid, I was introduced to this special when my parents recorded it on VHS from the television. However, that wasn't long after I saw a promo of it on the Dr. Seuss on the Loose VHS. And of course, my friend Justin Bernardhead, years before he became founder of Slasher Films Inc., told me about the special during my elementary age. And to me, to this very day, this special does great with the theme of courage and facing your fears. And now, let's move on to the characters and the voice actors. The Grinch is voiced by Hans Conried, who got to be in a few other Dr. Seuss cartoons, along with the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, Chuck Jones, the Phantom Tollbooth, Disney's Peter Pan, and he played the Magic Mirror in Disney's Halloween TV special. In my eyes, the Grinch is pretty similar, but way different from the way he was in the Christmas Story and the Chuck Jones special. To me, he's a lot more menacing, and for some reason, the Grinch has the ability to grow and shrink, and his eyebrows can fly off his face. Also, while the Grinch heads down towards Whoville on his paraphernalia wagon, he spits at a worm, crushes several flowers, and he tries to hunt down the last Wuzzy Wuzu. Also to note, Hans Conried also narrates the special, which to me is pretty reminiscent to Boris Karloff in the Chuck Jones special. Next, there's the Grinch's dog, Max. Like in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Max is forced to do his boss's bidding. Only in this special, he pulls the paraphernalia wagon down the mountain while the Grinch prowls towards Whoville. To me, I feel sympathy for all the abuse that Max goes through, especially during his song, How Many Times, which is sung by the late Henry Gibson, who voiced the Cat in the Hat in Daisy Head Maisie, Wilbur in Charlotte's Web, and Dr. Applecheek in Tom and Jerry the Movie. However, I thought it was pretty surprising when Max ditches the Grinch and goes with Yukaria at the end of the special. Next up is our main hero, Yukaria, voiced by Gary Shapiro. To me, ever since my childhood, I thought this Who kid was kinda odd due to his astigmatism, but at the same time, he's a pretty memorable character. In the special, he lives with his grandparents, Josiah and Mariah, and his younger sisters, Obadiah and Matthias. Also, throughout the special, Yukaria has a habit of taking off his glasses and telling people that things look a little bit better with them off. To which everybody, including the Grinch, tells him to put his glasses back on and face the facts. Which, in my opinion, is a very funny running gag. However, on the other hand, I thought Yukaria had a lot of courage to stand up and face the Grinch and his spooks. Also to note, I think Yukaria is a reference to a character from Dr. Seuss's ABCs. The last character to talk about is Sgt Samuel Mcverson, voiced by Jack DeLeon. whom I mostly remember from Rankin Bass's The Hobbit. Sgt Mcverson is in charge of the Grinch Alarm Center. The only way to contact him is to dial area code 519006 on the emergency and weather broadcast system device, which is like a telephone and a TV merged into one. Anyway, throughout this special, Mcverson reports in person the Grinch's anti-social activities while he prowls down the mountain in order to keep all Whoville warned. Other actors in the special include Hal Smith, Irene Tedrow, June Foray, Mel Blanc, and Paul Frees. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, Halloween is Grinch Night is a timeless Halloween special from my childhood. To me, the animation truly captures the spirit of Halloween and the charm and wonder of Dr. Seuss. The Grinch is a very menacing character, especially when it comes to Hans Conried's voice. The main character, Yukaria, is a pretty memorable character while facing terror. Plus, as I said before, this special is great with the theme of courage, and I think nowadays this is a Halloween special that is highly underrated and one that I highly recommend for you guys to watch during this spooky season. In fact, the only way you can watch it nowadays is either on YouTube or on this DVD. As for my rating, I'll give it an 87% out of 100. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me next time. Mustang Power. Sir, I'm afraid I have some bad news. There's a large percent chance that you won't be able to blog the recent Addams Family or Venom sequels this year.